Hey, this is Notser, and this is a look at the early tier Japanese destroyers. At tier 2, we've got the Umikaze, a very, very powerful ship, honestly, at tier 2. 8-kilometer range torpedoes, good detectability on those torpedoes. Speed is horrendous, but the detectability makes up for that. Great ship concealment. One thing that's weird about it, it has a high armor zone relative near the top of the hull. HE will probably shatter if you're a small caliber, maybe like 100, 120. So just keep that in mind. But this is the first Japanese destroyer. It really gets you playing like any Japanese destroyer would play. You rely on your concealment, you send torpedoes at targets, and you hope that they don't change their direction. If they change the direction, you're probably going to miss. I always like to pay attention to the target. If they're coming out of a turn, they will speed up. It's just the nature of the game. So you might want to lead the indicator. But otherwise, you send your torpedoes, they do massive damage. That is a trait of the Japanese, and you basically take targets out if you hit them with your torpedoes. As far as my build is concerned, I prioritize preventative maintenance, last stand, faster torpedo rearm, and concealment. That is basically my first 10 points spent, and then I will go back and pick up something like a drill and rush, survivability expert, superintendent, priority target. I don't get a lot out of radiolocation. If you do, I would probably take it. Umikaze, a great tier 2 destroyer. Another tier 2 destroyer, we have the Tachibana. It's premium. It's got terrible torpedo range, 5 kilometers. It can't even outrange it. It's got really small caliber guns. No health whatsoever compared to the Umikaze. However, it works just like every other destroyer. You can do damage at any point of the ship. There is no high armor zone. The Umikaze is very weird for that quirk. Overall, you play this like everything else at the tier. You just go into their face, you show yourself, and you kill them. Or you don't. And that's pretty much it. You send the torpedoes. They have a high rearm at this tier. Again, same similar build. I just really don't value radiolocation. That doesn't mean it's not useful for you. It's not useful for me. I would rather have more health, superintendent, priority target, because I do get into situations where I want to know who's targeting me, who's not. I figure taking survivability and priority target is better for me than taking radiolocation. But in general, you have to take last stand concealment, faster torpedo rearm. That's your bread and butter as a Japanese. It's the same down here. Now, you're not going to get a lot out of it down here since the rearm is probably 20 seconds. And at 20 seconds, you're getting 2 seconds off of it. So, whoa, baby. But high damage, good rearm. It's enjoyable to send out torpedoes as a Japanese. It never changes. So that was the tier 2 premium Tachibana. At tier 3, we've got the Wakatake. It's a little bit of a step up from the tier 2 premium, but the Umikaze still, outranges its torpedoes. It had better detectability, slower torpedoes, granted, but we're starting to get into the identity of the Japanese for tiers 3, 4, 5. Low health, okay guns. The range of the torpedoes is not going to get past 7 kilometers, unfortunately. It's just the way it works. After all the nerfs they've done, they've really just butchered the line since the original. The original used to be, tier after tier, very scary, taking out targets left and right. Same sort of build. I've talked about it, I'm not going to talk about it much more. In the Wakatake, you want to sit and smoke, use your guns every once in a while. Your guns are useful, shockingly, and your torpedoes do a lot of damage, not shockingly. Get fires, get floods, rearm, and then do it all over again. That's the one thing that I really enjoy about early tier Japanese destroyers versus the late tier, is you can actually send your torpedoes on cooldown relatively quickly, have a chance to do damage to targets, so even take them out every 20 or 30 seconds. It's really an active play style. The German destroyers really take this mantle and run with it, but it is something that will be going away. So if you've fallen in love with the fast torpedo rearm of the Japanese and high damage, that just doesn't last. Unfortunately, It's just a trait that they drop. Maybe because they feel like the torpedoes do too much damage, and they are the highest damaging torpedoes in the game, tier for tier. At tier 4, we've got the Isokaze. Now, this was legendary for being very effective. It's been neutered a little bit, you know, it's given up a little bit of detection here and there. It's pretty effective. Players are better. You outrange your concealment by about 1 kilometer. It's a very small window, but if the enemy's coming towards you, then the window can be larger because they will move into the range of your torpedoes. AA protection non-existent. Speed's actually pretty good compared to everyone else you're going to go up against. So the Isokaze in combat. I really like staying concealed, going after targets. If I have to, I will show myself definitely down here because, let's face it, most players can't hit the target as effectively as they can at high tier. Plus, the ships they're playing are not as effective. Let's be as frank as we can be. We're playing in World War I era ships. The damage output just isn't there, so you can take more risk. You can try getting close to an enemy, showing yourself to him, sending your torpedoes, forcing him back, and it'll either work or it won't. It'll be up again in the time it takes for the enemy to reorient, and he's going to have to do it all over again. Dodge left, dodge right. But the Isokaze was a very effective Japanese destroyer for a very long time. The Japanese destroyers have not been as powerful as they once were. Will that change? I'm hoping. But in general, you play them, use smoke, send torpedoes, hope that the player doesn't change their angle. If they do, your torpedoes will be up relatively quickly, and then you can do it all over again. You only need probably 2 or 3 torpedo hits to really take out any target you're going after. Especially as a Japanese. That's, you know, be very careful, because these torpedoes are very unforgiving. At tier 5, in the main line, we have the Mutsuki. Or the Mutsuki, as I like to say, because it's just, it's such a pain to use. Barely any range on the guns. Torpedoes do have good range, 8 kilometers, so you outrange it by about 3 kilometers. Good speed. But the guns, you only have 2 guns. You do not want to fight people. You don't have to be in range to use your guns. You don't have to deal with other destroyers. That's going to be really, really frustrating. Extremely frustrating. But again, same sort of build. I wouldn't really lower the range with torpedo acceleration. It's, you know, I've been on torpedo acceleration in the past, and it's nice, but honestly, radar is punishing. Aircraft carriers are punishing. I want to get as much range from the target as I possibly can while still maintaining some semblance of effectiveness. Torpedo acceleration is good at close range, and I don't really want to be at close range. I want to be further out, moving in whenever I have a chance to drop on a target that's moving left to right, or potentially slowing down the enemy's advance. That's what the Japanese are good at. You need to still play the objective. I don't know why targets refuse to play the objective, but more so than most, the Japanese, I find, players are like, it's not my problem. It's not my job. It is your job. One thing that you will notice at tier 4 is you get the accuracy module. It impacts the speed that the torpedo launchers traverse. And that's important because if you're getting into a brawling scenario, you need it to traverse quickly, so definitely pick that up. At tier 5, in the alternative line, is the Minekaze. This was legendary. It had 10-kilometer range torpedoes, devastated the enemy. They've taken all that away, and what we have left is a very neutered version. 6-kilometer range concealment, 7-kilometer range torpedoes. So yes, it's very finesse. I saw that on a couple posts where they were talking about how they played certain classes and certain lines. It's a very much finesse-driven sort of ship. You want to play just outside of your torpedo range, move inside, be very careful, try and predict the target's momentum, direction, get ahead of it, send your torpedoes, and then do it all over again. I do enjoy, you're starting to pick up into, you know, ships that are more effective. It just is, people will punish you hard because they'll pick up on trends that you're doing. People are much, much, much more informed about what's going on. They're going to stop. They're not going to move forward. This ship might run into tier 7s. Tier 7s have radar. And good luck with radar when you only have 7-kilometer range on your torpedoes and your gun range isn't much better. And you don't want to use your guns outside of being in smoke and maybe finishing off a destroyer or two, or even a cruiser or a battleship if they're very low, extremely low. But I wouldn't rely on it. The recent buffs that they did to the turret traverse, it feels better, but it's still your last ditch effort. Don't rely on it. Same sort of build. I definitely prefer to improve the combat overall than have radio location. I just think radio location is just worthless. Another tier 5. This is a premium. It's the Kamikaze R. This is going to be a stand-in for the Kamikaze R, the Kamikaze, and the Fujin. I believe they're all the exact same ship with a different skin. If I'm wrong, sorry. It's got 7-kilometer range torpedoes, better concealment than the Minekaze. It's just basically better. It's a premium, so creep happens, and once they nerf the main line of the Japanese, then the premiums start looking a lot better, and they are better. So be careful. The Kamikaze is good. It's probably the best tier 5 Japanese destroyer. All of those are, Kamikaze. So just keep that in mind. Same sort of build. Why do I pick up propulsion protection on all my destroyers? Well, propulsion is very important for a destroyer. It allows you to feather back and forth, stay stationary. If it's knocked out, it's not as accurate with its adjustments, and you need to be extremely accurate if you're going to try and sit in smoke, fire guns, send torpedoes, avoid torpedoes. That's the whole game when you're playing these guys. Man, I ran into the island again. But the Kamikaze R is extremely effective. You've got a nice 1.5 or so window. Now, of course, it doesn't matter if you're going up against tier 7s and failing miserably, you're taking tons of damage, and radar. Radar happens. That's just what happens to Japanese destroyers. You can't get close enough to be effective if they have radar. They just will know you're there and you'll have to deal with it. But we'll talk about radar some more as we continue to work our way up through the Japanese destroyer lines. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you have a fantastic day, and I'll catch you next time.